Attention. Full version in the comments. I had already given up on the idea that he would call me. It had been exactly 20 days since that night, since he gave me a ride on that deserted road, and everything changed. Since then, I've been back to my routine here, in the city where I live alone because of work, far from my family, far from everything. But even with the distance, with my commitments, with the days that all seemed the same, I still remembered his scent. That strong smell of a seasoned truck driver, a mixture of diesel, leather, and warm skin. I could still feel the touch of his hands on my waist, on my face, on my chest. The taste of his kiss still lived in me, as if my mouth had memorized every detail of that moment. 20 days. And no sign of him. I tried not to get my hopes up. I tried to convince myself that it was just a moment, beautiful, yes, but fleeting. That it was better to let it go, to move on. But how could I move on when every night, as I turned off the lights in my small apartment, I thought about him. I wondered what he was doing. If he remembered me, if he had read the note with my number and simply decided to ignore it, or if he had kept it, but didn't know what to say. The truth is, since that night in the car, nothing has been the same. Not even the silence in my apartment. Not even the taste of my morning coffee. Not even the sound of the road behind the building. Something in me got stuck in that car, stuck on him. It was a typical late afternoon, the kind of day when everything seems a little dull, a little automatic. I arrived at my apartment tired, after another long day at work. I took off my shoes in the hallway and went straight to the shower, trying to wash away the weight of the day. Then I threw myself on the couch, still wearing a towel around my waist, my head spinning and my body exhausted. I called my wife, as I did from time to time, just to hear her voice, to ease the longing I felt for my son. The conversation was light, simple, and lasted only a few minutes. When I hung up, I left my cell phone on my chest and lay there with the TV on low, watching anything I didn't even pay attention to. That's when a message popped up on my phone. I picked up the phone thinking it was her again. Maybe a photo, an unexpected, "I love you." But what appeared on the screen made me freeze for a moment. Unknown number. The preview of the message simply said, "Hello, good evening. This is Toby. Everything okay?" My heart raced. It was as if that name had activated something inside me that had been dormant or waiting. I jumped up on the couch, my eyes glued to the screen, my chest tight. I read it again and again. It was him, Toby. After 20 days of silence, I took a deep breath and replied too quickly, trying to hide my nervousness. "Hi, Toby. I'm fine. How are you?" I tried to sound natural, as if I hadn't spent 20 nights reliving that scene in the car, as if he hadn't invaded my thoughts every day since then. The reply came almost immediately. "I'm in your town. I'm landing here today. I thought I'd say hi. Maybe see you. If you're up for it." I stared at the message, my phone heavy in my hand. My fingers took a while to move, as if that simple invitation had the power to mess everything up inside me again. But the reply came out natural, almost impulsive. "Sure, Toby. We can. Do you want to come over to my apartment?" There was a 2-minute pause. Too long. Then he wrote, "Sure. I'd love to. Send me your address." I sent it. Without thinking, without hesitating. I just sent it. 20 minutes later, the doorbell rang, and my heart raced again even faster. The doorbell rang. For a second, I stood in the middle of the room, staring at the door as if it were about to explode. The sound echoed in the silent apartment and snapped me out of a trance. My heart was beating in my neck. My hands were sweating. I took a deep breath, trying to sound calm, even though inside I was a mess. I walked to the door, hesitated for a second, and opened it. It was him. Toby was standing there in the hallway of my building, looking as serene as ever, but with something in his eyes I couldn't quite figure out. He was wearing a dark, simple t-shirt, tight enough to show that time had been kind to him. His jeans were worn, his boots marked by the road, his beard still well-groomed, but a little longer than last time, and his gaze, that direct, steady gaze that seemed to pierce right through you. "Hi," he said with a half-smile. "I hope I'm not disturbing you." "No, of course not. Come in," I said, opening the door wider. He entered slowly, looking around with restrained curiosity. It was the first time someone from that other side of my life had entered my space. I closed the door. We stood there for a moment, in the living room, as if looking for a way to make it less awkward. "Would you like something to drink?" I asked, breaking the silence. "I'd love some water, if you have any." I went to the kitchen, grabbed a glass, filled it with cold water from the tap, and handed it to him. Our fingers touched. For a moment, it was as if the time between us had disappeared. He drank slowly, without taking his eyes off me. I sat down on the sofa, and he did the same. We sat side by side, but not too close. The low sound of the TV still filled the room, but it was just background noise now. "You know," he said, looking ahead, not at me, "I almost didn't send that message." "Why?" "I didn't want to bother you, or seem intrusive. I didn't know if you wanted to see me again." I was silent for a few seconds before answering. "I thought you weren't going to send it. I waited at first. Then, I tried to forget, but it didn't work." He turned his face and looked at me. His gaze had a calm weight, full of things that couldn't be said with words. And yet, I understood everything. "That night," he began. "I remember," I interrupted, not letting him finish. "I think about it every day." He smiled, this time with his eyes too. A smile of relief, of someone who had been carrying a heavy burden. We were silent. But it wasn't an uncomfortable silence. It was dense, heavy. There was a current of energy between us, a good, lively tension that seemed to grow with every passing second. "If I say I missed you," he said, turning his body slightly toward me, "will you think I'm pushing too hard?" I looked into his eyes. I leaned in just a little, without touching him. "No, because I missed you too." He placed his empty glass on the coffee table. And then, slowly, as if respecting the other's time, he stretched out his hand and touched my leg. The touch was light, but it said everything. His hand stayed there, resting on my leg, as if asking for permission without words. A simple gesture, but one that made my whole body wake up. I turned slightly on the sofa, facing him. Our eyes met. And there, in the silence filled with unspoken words, I knew that he also felt everything I had been trying to swallow. Toby approached slowly, as if to make sure I wasn't going to back away. But I wasn't. I closed my eyes the moment his lips touched mine, and then everything stopped. Time, doubt, the world. It was a kiss, full of memories, but also of urgency. It tasted like everything that had been stuck in my throat these past few days. It was no longer the same shy kiss from the ride home. Now it was thirsty, intense, certain. His hands went to my face, holding it firmly, tenderly. I brought mine to his neck, feeling the warmth of his skin, the stubble lightly brushing against mine. The kiss gained rhythm, depth. Our breathing was ragged, our bodies leaning toward each other, as if tired of holding back. He pulled my body closer, with one hand firmly on my waist, fitting me closer to him. I let myself go, sitting on his lap, without thinking, without justifying myself, just feeling. When we pulled apart, our faces still close, our foreheads touching, he whispered hoarsely, "I needed that, me too." We stayed there, hugging, breathing the same air, as if the rest of the world had ceased to exist for a few minutes. And maybe it did. He pulled me back, and we kissed again. This time more calmly, more truthfully. A long, silent kiss, full of everything that had been kept inside for 20 days. Our hands sought each other. Our bodies moved even closer together. I settled myself on his lap, and there, in the middle of the room, with the soft light of the television flickering in the background, we allowed ourselves to forget the world. We stayed on the sofa. That small space became our refuge, cramped, but enough. We took off our clothes carefully, as if unwrapping something precious. There was no shame, no rush, just restrained desire, tenderness, and an immense desire to be there, with each other. We touched each other as if we had known each other for a long time. Every gesture seemed loaded with meaning. Every kiss was an answer. Every glance, a silent promise that this moment was real. We made love right there, on the sofa, impromptu. in the truth of what we felt. It was intense, intimate, beautiful. It wasn't just about skin. It was about presence, about allowing ourselves. And then, when the silence returned, and only the sound of our breathing filled the space, I lay down on his chest and closed my eyes. For the first time in a long time, I felt at peace. We stayed there for a while, hugging on the couch, our bodies still warm and silent, as if the world had finally slowed down with us. The room was dim, only the faint light of the TV flickering in the background, and his touch still lingering on my skin. I looked up and, without much ceremony, asked softly, "Do you want to sleep here tonight?" He looked at me for a second, with that serene look that only he had, and replied with a slight smile, "Yes, I do." I got up, turned off the living room light, and he followed right behind me. We walked to the bedroom in silence, as if each step were a continuation of what we had started there on the couch. The bedroom was quiet, with the lamp creating an atmosphere almost too cozy to be real. He took off his t-shirt and lay down first. I followed suit. We settled under the sheet, without saying much, not because there was nothing to say, but because the silence was already saying everything. I lay down next to him, and, naturally, he pulled me close. I nestled into his chest, feeling the warmth of his skin, the rhythm of his breathing, the comforting weight of his embrace. We slept together, in my room, as if that was what we had needed for a long time. No rush, no questions, just presence. And that night, there, in that simple room, far from the road and the noise of the world, I finally felt like I was where I was supposed to be. I woke up before him. The morning light came in softly through the curtains, illuminating the room with a calm that matched how I felt inside. I turned my face slowly and watched him sleep peaceful, serene, breathing lightly, his face partially covered by the sheet. There was something beautiful in that shared silence, something rare. I got out of bed quietly, put on a t-shirt, and went to the kitchen. I made coffee slowly, trying to prolong that moment, as if the morning needed to last longer than usual. While the water heated, I put 2 cups on the table, cut a piece of bread, and spread butter on it. Everything was simple, but full of care. Shortly after, I heard his footsteps coming from the bedroom. He appeared at the door with his hair tousled and a sleepy smile on his face. He was wearing only jeans, still unbuttoned, and his eyes sought mine with an intimacy that no longer seemed strange. "Did you make coffee?" he asked, his voice hoarse from the morning. "Yes," I replied, smiling. "I thought you'd like to start the day like this." "I did," he said, pulling up a chair and sitting down at the table. We had breakfast together, in silence at times, laughing softly at others. It was as if that moment had frozen time. Nothing seemed more urgent than being there with him, sharing the first meal of the day. Then he got up slowly, went to the bedroom, and came back with his t-shirt in his hands. "I have to get going," he said, looking me in the eyes, serious but tender. I nodded, even though I didn't want him to go. He came closer and, without saying a word, gave me a calm, long kiss that tasted like a promise. When his lips left mine, he whispered, "We'll see each other again. I want to, and I know you want to too." "I do," I replied without hesitation. He smiled in that way that always disarmed me, and left. The door closed behind him with a soft click, and I stood there for a while, trying to understand how someone who had spent so little time in my life could occupy so much space inside me. But one thing I was sure of, that wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. It's only been 4 days since then, but I already miss him. We talk every day, whenever we can, even if it's just short messages or quick calls between one destination and another. And every word, every good morning, every sleep well, makes me realize how much he's already part of my routine. I don't know what the future holds. We still have distance, time, different paths, but I hope we can handle it. Because, honestly, I miss him. This has been my story. Simple, unexpected, real. And if you've made it this far, I hope you enjoyed this journey with me. If you liked it, leave a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me to keep telling stories like this. Don't forget, the full version is in the comments. With love, Daniel.